Hi there, it's Riikka Kovasin here with my first Seth Apter Creative Team project. As you can see from the starter, this is day 1, so this is kind of a 3-day event kind of thing, showing a process of an art journal page. I was thinking kind of breaking the making of an art journal page into 3 phases. First is breaking the blank page. I'm sharing 3 ways to use Seth Apter dye sprays to break a blank page. Kind of create that first layer, because usually it's the blank white page that scares us. So my goal is to just go for it, to add something to the page and make it easier to then continue. So in this first video, I'm showing just 3 ways to break that blank page and kind of give you that idea to go onwards with the project. As you can see, my first idea is just to use a stencil, really basic technique, but it gives that first layer some pattern, and that's easy to do. So just lay down a stencil, spray the inks through it, and also remember to flip the stencil to get the other impression, because sometimes that might be even more interesting than the original one. The look of this actually, well, it depends on the colors you're using. So I highly recommend to use at least 2 different colors and letting them mix, because that creates an infinite amount of different shades to the project rather than just using one. In all of these techniques, I'm mixing 3 different sprays: licorice, honey, and turquoise. The next is to use stamps with the sprays. So you don't always have to go for like ink pads when you're stamping. You can also use sprays. This first stamp I'm using, it's so big, so I use it kind of as a texture plate and lay the paper on top. But you can also just use them as stamping ink. Spray the ink to the stamp and then stamp it. Naturally, it's much more wetter medium, so the impression isn't as clear as with ink pads. But again, it's an easy way to add something to that maybe scary blank page. The third idea is to just use it as a watercolor, just paint it. This was actually my first go with the Seth Apter sprays, so I tested if a gesso layer will affect the look anyway. So I coated the top of my paper using gesso and left the bottom half without, kind of testing if the colors will lift up as easily from the gessoed and untreated surfaces. So first I sprayed all of the different colors to the paper, and then I'm using just a wet, soft brush to move them around. I'm speeding things up so you can actually see me painting the whole thing, but don't have to look at it for hours and hours. I added some splashes to the page and then gave it a quick dry, and then I'm trying if the gesso and the untreated paper act any differently when I'm adding water on top, kind of lifting that ink off the paper. And what surprised me was that there's absolutely almost none effect between the gessoed and the untreated paper, because the dye sprays tend to dye the paper a little bit if there's nothing underneath, but these lift up so beautifully. So there you have it. 3 easy ways to break that blank page, to get you going, to get you started on an art journal page. As I said, this is just the first video, so be back tomorrow. Bye for now.